emailed a separate document.
So do we have a motion to open the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who will be recording the minutes of this meeting? Brian,
I
you
have
do
one
that?
going, I'm just trying to get online here.
Should we all take turns doing that?
Yeah. I'll do that.
So Kevin did it once, Brian did it once, so we'll all take a turn.
All right, should we stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Nice job, guys. All right, organizationally, I added this subsection. Why don't we adopt the minutes after we add Mr. Pollack as a member of the committee. So I will move to add Ross Pollack to the as a member of the Human Resources Joint Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Welcome, Ross.
Congratulations, Ross.
Glad to join.
Good to see you.
People, I hope to do some productive work with all of you.
Good.
And if I may say, I like that shirt.
It does look well on me.
Yes.
Adopting the minutes of the prior meeting. Everybody have a chance to review the minutes? Any changes you want to make? Additions, modifications? Anything?
I just had one small thought, and it was kind of nitpicky. But would it be better if, when we record minutes, we record general ideas as opposed to who said what, so that it's more of it seems more like it was a conversation that the committee had as opposed to individual members said blah blah.
There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, and so it would seem to me that it would make sense that comments weren't attributed to people, and it's just a comment. I don't know if it's a function of.
That's the classic question about minutes.
Yeah.
How much do you want to write down and how much detail?
Well, I mean, the detail isn't necessarily the issue for me. I think I think it should be the committee discussed as opposed to, if you came up with an idea, it shouldn't necessarily be attributed to you because other people might not like that idea and you might get pummeled for that particular idea. And I think that, when we report out the minutes, that it's a function of, just a thought that I had. Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not being critical about it. It's just it just makes it look like it's everybody participated in that conversation. It was just an idea that was thrown out and we all discussed it.
Global perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody's in agreement then. From now on, we'll do it that way?
Yeah,
I'm fine either way.
I mean, I kind of just leave it up to whoever's taking the minutes. That's kind of how I would see it. But if everyone feels that that sounds better,
It was just a pet peeve. That's all.
willing.
Well, why don't we strive to try to keep them individual member neutral, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, anyone who's going to watch the video is going to see how the conversation went anyway. So I mean, but yes, let's do that in the sake of making it easier on the minute taker too.
Okay, that's fine. All right.
So you want to move to adopt?
Move to adopt the minutes from the prior meeting, June 18, 2012. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so carried. I think last time we talked about maybe looking at personnel policies. I did get a copy of the current New Paltz personnel discriminatory harassment policies for non-union employees. And I've circulated a copy of that to all of you. And then maybe we can compare this to what the village has in place and see where there's some commonalities and maybe some areas where we can have some discussions about coordinated consolidation of the policies. So there are certain sections of the town policy that actually need to be flushed out a little bit more. We were at a town board meeting a couple of weeks ago, and there was some discussion that health benefits are available to full-time employees, and according to some of the the people that were speaking that night, 20 hours a week or more would qualify you for full medical benefits. So in looking
So
at...
that's a part-time employee that would be eligible for medical benefits?
Yeah, there's a little bit of, it's not very clear from the policy itself. If you go and look at page 5, where it talks about categories of employees, you'll see regular full-time are hired to work a regular schedule 40 hours or more per week. And it says regular part-time are staff members hired to work a regular schedule of less than 40 hours per week. Part-time staff members work less than 20 hours per week and are not eligible for staff membership benefits.
If you look at the bottom of page 4, very bottom paragraph, a full work week denotes 20 hours or more.
I was going to point that out, which is very unusual.
It's very
very generous of
unusual.
us.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as workers' compensation and the state is concerned, I know from my private business that it's 30-plus hours would signify a full-time employee, I think 30-plus.
So that's definitely something we can look at. Don, if you look at page 6 where it talks about health benefits, it just talks about regular part-time employees having the option of joining and paying. But doesn't really discuss the category of people between 20 and 40 hours a week.
Well, I think it does early on page 4. It says that if you work more than 20 hours, you're
Well, that
it's a full work week.
discusses a full work week, not that if you are working a full work week, that you are
Full-time
a
employee.
full-time employee eligible for all the benefits. Because they're defined on page 5, hired to work a regular schedule of 40 hours. So there's some work.
Do we know what the practice is? If people who are in that category are receiving?
I believe the current
Okay.
practice is 20 hours or more, they're receiving health benefits. So it's something that we have to look at. I know that other towns, the threshold is much higher than that. So that's just something I'd like to point out. Do we know what the village has in terms of a personnel policy?
For this particular, I believe it's 20 hours.
Is it 20 as well,
Yes,
right?
it is as well. So, and we have run into that conflict with the deputy clerk needing to stay more hours, and we only keep them for so many because of that.
Okay. Is there a similar summary from the village?
Yeah, there are policies. I haven't obtained them yet.
Be good to look at them side by side.
Compare them side to side, yeah.
So for the next meeting then, we'll have had an opportunity to review the personnel policies for both the town and the village, and maybe we'll have a more thorough discussion about the policies then.
Well, at that point in time, we will have an idea what the benefits are for the town, then for the village, and also for the police and dispatchers. So those are the three main groups, really. I don't know of any.
Actually, there's going to be the non-union group, there's going to be the police group, there's going to be the Teamsters group, and then there's the warehousemen and chauffeurs group. So as far as the town is concerned, we have, 4 pools? 4 pools. All right. And I believe the village the DPW has to be in a union.
CSEA.
CSEA.
That's the only one
That's
we
right.
have.
That's it. All right. Anything else on personnel policies?
Well, would we, when we look at both of them, would our goal be to change the work week, move the work week from 20 hours to 30?
Well, the definition of a part-time versus a full-time, I could see that having some.
Because 20 hours is generally part-time, and 35 and a half to 40 would
Right.
be a full-time work week, right?
So why is it in between that? I mean, where is, why is it percentages in between that, and who makes that distinction?
Well, I think the prior town board made some kind of distinction there.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, you can see.
I mean, I don't know why they did that.
Right.
Because, typically you're a full-time 35 or more with most
Right.
companies that you would work for, and to offer a health benefit with no contribution from a person that works 21 hours a week is very, very generous. And I think, if we're talking about trying to cut costs in examining these things and looking for efficiencies, I think we're really going to have to look at that and determine what's the best policy to adopt. Obviously, I think I might be in favor of a higher threshold rather than the threshold that I see right now.
Yeah.
Based upon the cost of, for instance, a family plan could be $1,700 to $1,900 a month for a person that works 21 hours. So they're getting that benefit, which actually may have more value to them than what their hourly rate is.
Right.
So
Right.
I think you have to look at that.
Is it possible that what we have here is modeled perhaps from the state? Do you know that?
It's
You
not,
don't
because
know?
I've seen other town policy manuals.
Really?
We actually were looking to revise ours,
Okay.
but most of the other towns, the threshold is much higher than this.
Well, and you made a point last meeting, Kevin, that people who work in civil service or in government usually don't do it for the money. They're usually not the highest paid position, so the benefits are important. But as I look at the benefits offered in a couple of different groups, healthcare costs are exploding, and these benefits are from a different time. It's not bad guys, not bad guys, but I don't, I work with a whole range of companies in my business. My wife works for a United Way agency, so I have a sense of benefits across a wide range of organizations, and we're generous. We're real generous, and I just think it's mainly because I don't think these things have been looked at in a comprehensive way since the world changed with healthcare costs. I just, there were a lot of gulps as I was looking through some of the, some of these benefits and what they must cost, and I don't, I guess getting ahead to the next step, I don't think you can easily or if someone's taken a position with a certain expectation, I have some real issues with pulling the rug out from under their feet. But I think we do need to look at new hires and maybe tiers of things, because this is really expensive, and
there's nothing fixing it either. It's going to continually.
And there's no bad guys. People deserve health care.
Right.
I'm okay with that.
Right.
But 100% contribution for families, in some cases, when people retire for life, in the current reality is just scary. As a taxpayer.
I think back to that, Don, you see that the policy was last revised January 27, 2005. So it's been some time since they looked at this, and I think what it has done is has allowed the town to create maybe several part-time positions that wouldn't necessarily exist if the health benefits weren't attached to it.
Right.
So I think that's happened in the past.
Well, is it possible as we go through, now that for example, the police contract is up, is it possible that as we look at all of these things that we try to marry all of the benefits for, if you work for the, just because you work in the police department, you don't get a separate batch of benefits that are negotiated by your union versus what you get over here? I mean, is there a way that we can marry them all so that there is a minimum standard within the town/village of benefit level, and if you want anything above that, you cough up the money for it? Yeah. I mean, is that something that
I think management would want that. I think the pushback you're going to get is, we're police officers, we take risks that other people don't take, and we should be rewarded for it. And it's a valid debate. So yes, I think if we could marry all the benefits and have some consistency, that would be a real consolidation. If you work for New Paltz in whatever capacity, here's what you get.
Well, right,
Not
you
to
get,
deviate from that.
right, right. And I mean, I totally agree with you as it relates to the police department. I mean, somebody who, who goes out there and does what they do, they get hurt on the job. I think we should take care of them as long as we can. But I mean, I think there's a different standard if you finish your employ and then you go away and then we're still paying for you and your family and everybody else, and you have another job someplace else. I mean, that to me is kind of double dipping, So
Well, it's just it's financially unsustainable.
yeah,
It's scary. It's scary.
yeah, it's a lot of money. It's an awful lot of money.
All right, so we should definitely look at trying to create then within our policy manual, try to offer, like you said last time, maybe offer a specific medical program to all of our employees, and then you offer the part-timers the ability to participate. They have to pay X or Y.
And also, we talked about shopping for a plan.
Yes.
And one person's job in the whole town village setup, their job is to shop for benefits. We're going to get a better rate, number one. And number two, we only have one person that we're paying who is some type of a manager who is going to be shopping for these benefits and getting us the best possible deals and rates. And because we're going to be getting a volume deal, yeah.
And I can tell you, and I'm sure Di can tell you the same thing, that when you're out in the private sector and you're self-employed and you price those things every
I
year.
tell you that too.
Because
It's very
typically you stay
expensive.
with a company and after a year or two, all of a sudden their premiums go up beyond what the competitors are offering. So you're constantly switching in and out of programs. And I don't think anyone at the town level has been that concerned about that kind of shopping for years. And so I think there are lots of opportunities for us to save. We could even open up these deductible accounts and contribute town funds to that initially, so that we're basically funding this tax deductible pool. If it's not used, it's a savings to the town, and we get the benefit of a substantially lower monthly premium. So I know a lot of companies are doing that now, and it's actually working out, and they're saving a lot of money. So there are probably 2 or 3 major health insurance brokers that deal in this community. Maybe what we should do is just give them each an assignment and say, what can you do for us? And come up with maybe a template for what we should try to do. Maybe we should do that and get that information that we can use as part of our recommendation.
You're speaking of a health benefit, or used to the health benefit account, is that?
Yes.
Okay, and then after the money's, at the end of the year, they give you the note that says you got till April to spend it. If you don't, it belongs to us.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Well, right. And that's what a lot of private people are doing. And some towns are moving to that model too.
And
So-
interestingly enough, our Chamber of Commerce offers a health benefit, or it offers local business people who are members of the Chamber to subscribe to a group policy, and it helps individuals save money by becoming part of that group. And I don't know how many individuals they have in their group, but it's possible that if we were able to pin down something and have maybe 800 people or 1,200 people that need medical insurance, we could get an even better deal.
Can you imagine the deal you would get if you get the Association of Towns together?
Great deal.
They did it that way, but that level of organization is
Yeah.
probably very difficult to achieve.
As I'm looking at page 7, I'm looking even at the paid holidays. Okay? And
It starts out
I don't mean to sound like Scrooge, but the day after Thanksgiving should be your vacation day. It shouldn't be a paid, in my view, it shouldn't be a paid holiday. The taxpayer should do that. You take it out of your own time. You get the day, and if you take the day after that,
Right.
that's your vacation or your personal leave. The same for, they don't have it, perhaps Christmas Eve too. You know, I mean, it's
Christmas
just,
Eve.
yeah.
Well, you know,
This is
they
the
have,
real
they have
world.
Yom Kippur, so maybe a Jewish person doesn't want to work on Yom Kippur, but maybe a Jewish person would work on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
about being a
Yeah,
team
and I'm not-
and
right, and
everybody
I'm-
doing
but
the
I'm-
best they can.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, Yom Kippur it's a holiday. You take, but I mean, half day after Thanksgiving or I mean, those are generally in private business. Those are personal days or vacation days that you take. They're not paid days that I don't think the taxpayer should be paying for. That comes out of your bank of time if you choose to use it. So I mean, I think the federal holidays and a lot of places, for example, substitute Veterans Day or Columbus Day for the day after Christmas or the day after Thanksgiving, and you know, maybe even for Yom Kippur or Passover.
Do you know how many federal holidays there are?
I believe there are 13,
13.
12 or 13.
Well, there's another group that gets Lincoln's birthday plus President's Day. It's not the group we're looking at. Lincoln's birthday plus President's
You have
Day
the court to get that
plus plus Columbus Day plus Veterans Day plus Martin Luther King Day, and they go to multiple weeks of vacation after 1 year of employment. That's not this group. That's another group.
So, I
we're
mean-
being really generous.
Right.
you know?
I mean, one of the things we could say, we observe the federal holidays, and if you choose to substitute a Columbus Day or a Veterans Day for, you know, the day after Christmas or even, you know, some people don't observe Martin Luther King Day. So, I mean, you take those out, you could use those any way you wish, but I think, you know, it should be the federal holidays, and then you can substitute, maybe the policy is you substitute Columbus, Veterans, for whatever. I mean, I'm just...
So-
Are the differences due to different contractual bargaining,
That,
or just town-village differences?
Ross, this is non-union. This is a policy for all non-union employees.
Okay.
So all those holiday schedules will be different in each contract, each union contract.
Got it.
Yeah, and the example I gave was from a different union in town. So they all have their own packages.
I mean, even people take, you know, some people who observe Good Friday,
Right.
you know, take that out of their personal bank of time if they choose not to work and observe Good Friday before Easter. So I mean, I think we should observe the 12 or 13 federal holidays, give people the opportunity to substitute Columbus, MLK, Veterans Day for any of the other days that they want, and then that be it. But I mean, you know,
Do you have any idea what the village does, Brian?
why not?
For
For
I don't
holidays?
I don't know the list of paid
Okay.
holidays, to be honest.
So we'll have to see what the village does and see what we come up with.
I think that'd be interesting. I mean, I guess it is only the salaried non-union employees, but what happens on a day where, let's say, most of the staff takes off and 2 people want to come in? I don't know. Like, if you could, would you be able to operate like that?
Operate.
Like, let's say everyone else has the day off and the clerk comes in, or like one
So-
salaried
Well,
employee,
the
but
government's
everyone
open,
else.
but everyone's not there.
Well,
Kind
the
of.
government. Well, the thing is that I mean, I can tell you from experience, if I was operating a business and my business was open the day after a holiday,
Mhm.
you would have to get approval from your supervisor to take the day off. If you were an essential employee,
Right.
you had to be at your desk on that day. If you were, if you were, not saying that an assistant is an essential, but, if your boss was out of town on vacation and you wanted to have that time, you could go too.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're in the assessor's office and it's a day of business, the assessor needs to be there at work, and anybody who that person deems essential to the operation of that office, I would think would have to be there. Using Bob as an example, if a huge snowstorm comes in on Thanksgiving Day, you pull people in and they do what they have to do, right? So it's a function of whether or not it's essential for you to be there, and I think that should be the standard, and that should be the discretion of perhaps the person who is supervising the individual offices.
All right, so it sounds like we're going to get some information from the village, and we're going to compare the different benefits, and we're going to make some recommendations. What are we making some recommendations about? What things, I guess this is a big question to me. Are we making recommendations if we consolidate, this is how we think things should be? Or, and I guess to put this in perspective, I'm not, it would be nice, I phrase this correctly, I have no idea whether consolidation at the end of the day is going to go over, it's going to pass, it's going to go over with the voters. And, I'm working hard at it, I'll probably support it, but if it doesn't, do these recommendations that we make, are we now making recommendations for the next round of contract negotiations with bargaining units? It sounds like that's what we're doing.
I think what you said earlier, Don, is nobody's looked at this policy for 7 or 8 years, so at the very least it's requiring town people to look at the town policy and reevaluate it. So even if consolidation doesn't happen, there's going to be specific recommendations made to the town board about what we're doing in the town.
Okay.
No doubt about it.
All right, so our formal recommendation would be as far as consolidation, but the information's still there.
Still going to be
If people want to learn from it.
help us.
Okay, just want to understand what our role is here.
What about C above? Is that still applicable or not?
Domestic partnership? I would venture to guess.
Would you say that's moot now?
No, yeah, I would, since you have the ability to be married in the state of New York.
Right.
Although at the same time there are straight couples who choose not to be married but domicile together. So I mean, there's that thing too. I mean, I don't necessarily think you look at domestic partnership benefits as something that might be solely limited to gay and lesbian couples. I think straight couples choose not to be married for whatever reason as well. So I mean, that's.
But if they choose not to marry, that's a choice.
That's
Going
correct.
back a year ago, gay people couldn't make the choice to marry, so
Correct.
this was necessary.
Correct.
So I really think.
I don't think it's not. It's moot.
I think this was put in place because
For gay and
the
lesbian
legality wasn't there.
Okay.
Yeah, if I want to move in with my girlfriend, she gets benefits. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah.
Well, I don't have a girlfriend, Lisa. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, again, if you work here, the theory is, and I hope we move toward, is that you pay for her benefits.
Yeah.
She doesn't just get them.
Okay.
Or he doesn't just get them.
Again, this is very generous. If this subdivision stays in after the law was modified, then we'd be offering something that's extremely generous
People don't normally want that.
that we can't really afford to offer.
Yeah,
So-
I'm not arguing for keeping it. I was putting out both sides. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. So the point was made before that this is 7-year-old information reflecting a universe that was very different when housing prices were going up and Wall Street was flush and everyone was flush, and the world has changed.
Now Wall Street's still flush and everybody else is poor.
Well, glad you said that. Okay.
All right.
Are we gonna go through this one page at a time, or this is just a general kind of?
I think we can look through it. As the vacation policy, as you can see, is what it is here. Sick time, you're allowed up to 15 days per year. Let's see, employees will accumulate 1 1/4 sick days per month, 15 days per year.
That's a lot of
Yeah.
being sick. And perhaps if you really are sick, after, 8 days of missing work, that should start to come out of your vacation days. I mean, if you're sick and you need the time, I think that we should be open to that. But at the same time, I think that, if you took a month off because you were sick, then maybe it's not a great year to take a vacation.
What do you think about the accumulation piece? See the accumulation piece?
Under sick time?
You're allowed to accumulate 100 days. So if you don't use them, you can accumulate over 3 months worth of sick time.
That's a lot.
It seems a little bit.
That's a lot. My experience has been you accumulate like a half a day every. It's nothing like 1.25.
Sick days per month.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay, so it's something we want to look at and compare to other industries, other towns, to see what they're offering.
So Ross, we're looking at sick leave time, and employees accrue 1 1/4 sick days per month, 15 days per year worked, and they can accumulate up to 100 sick days. So we're just making it out to take a look at the other contracts. We're looking now at the town for non-union employees. So we want to look at the village and the union employees and the police and everybody else and see what they get and compare, because that seems rather generous.
100 days sounds like an awfully large amount to be able to bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on the other big question, for what it's worth, I think the primary focus of the committees is supposed to be what you would recommend the consolidated government look like, or have as its policy. But gee, if any of the stuff that this committee develops is of use to the village or town either before consolidation or if consolidation doesn't happen, I'd say be as free thinking as you want to be as inventive as you want to be. It may have use in other contexts.
Agreed. Yeah, information is always our friend.
Yeah, I think so.
I think this.
And opinion, in this case, I think your opinions are valuable and will carry some weight, whatever arena they fall into.
And when I accrued, you accrued a certain number of sick days per pay period. So it wasn't like
An add up to
yeah,
that.
it was a certain when I was in TV, I got unlimited sick leave. It was just the way that it was. But any time after 3 days, you had to show up with a note from a doctor saying blah blah blah.
Yeah, I don't see it.
And so there wasn't any necessary accrual as far as sick time was concerned. But it was you have unlimited sick leave, but if you're out 3 consecutive days, you better be on crutches or on a respirator with a note from the doctor.
I don't see anything in here about a doctor's note.
Yeah, but it was, and you would accumulate point so many days per pay period. So
How long is the period?
your pay period is usually every 2 weeks.
Like for one paycheck?
Yeah, so it was a pay period. So a pay period was every 2 weeks. So you would accumulate, you might, after 6 months, have 3 days. It's and it may be more than that. I can check into it. But if you didn't have them, it wasn't like you couldn't go out sick. They fronted you time so that you could do it. But yeah, I can look up and ask people who are in HR and private business what they do for sick time accrual.
And the concept of banking sick days, I know school districts and teachers unions and administrators unions have the same concept, so it's not completely foreign, but this does 100 days seems like a lot.
You can also donate your excess sick days to fellow employees at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, it's under the sick bank. The sick bank.
Something really sad.
Longevity payments.
I think that's very odd, donating your sick day to another employee.
I guess if you have a long-term relationship with a fellow employee and they get really sick, then you want to do something for them.
Right.
And rather than having to reach in your pocket and help pay for their mortgage or something,
Right.
maybe you help them at least continue their salary. And if you do have a regulation or a cap on the total bank, then maybe it's something that you might want to consider.
And I know of a couple instances where teachers have done that for other teachers.
I think it's a good idea. I think
It's a nice thing.
good policy
It's
to have. If somebody
if people are willing to do that.
yeah, really, really ill,
Really?
and like terminal cancer or something, and they can't be without a job.
It's really nice if
yeah,
everybody
and people
gives a
can
couple
donate. I
days.
think that's a really good thing.
So I think the real value will be in comparing the various packages. So you asked about going by this item by item, Randall. I'd rather take a look at all the different, everybody's policy on health and dental insurance, everybody's policy on vacation time and that sort of stuff. Would be.
I mean, how many sick days do you guys think is appropriate? If you think 100 is a lot, I mean, what do you?
I have to
recommend?
look at the what else is out there.
Yeah, I
and
think
come up with something that would be.
if we're going to consolidate, it's not going to be what we think. It's going to be some variation of what's there and what it all is fair to put it together as.
Even bereavement is long. Just,
Yeah, well,
bereavement is usually 3 days in corporate
I mean,
world.
if it's their immediate family, someone
3 days.
dies.
Anything else in terms of personnel policies?
Well, I had made some notes when I reviewed the police policy.
Should we just move into that then,
Randall,
police
I
contract?
haven't really had, I just got this, so it's hard
All
for
right.
me to review
So-
it, absorb it, and discuss it. But I did take a little time and take a look at the police contract, and there were some things that really kind of screamed out to me. And I don't know if those things are going to be echoed in this contract or not, because I need to study it to see. But there were several things. First thing was the outside employment. If there's regular employees who have other jobs, but they're receiving full benefits from the village or the town, then I think that should be examined. We talked about overtime, 2.5 times, 1.5 times, 2 times, and I mean, honestly, I just think it's a lot of overtime that we're paying often. It seems like a really big thing, and the 2.5 times I think is like too much. I just think it's like crazy. I think 1.5 is fair. In a certain, you should be compensated for overtime, and as I mentioned before, I think overtime should be an emergency type of thing. And 1.5 times is what it is. I think if people have these jobs, they are a team, and it's up to the team to pull it together, to work, to do the job, and that's what the job is. And when you take the job, then you're on the team. If you're not on the team, then you're not on the team. So to pay somebody 2.5 times to get them to stay and answer a telephone, I think it's a little crazy. I really do. I thought the college reimbursement was extremely generous. Perhaps because we have a college right here in our own backyard, we could work something out with SUNY and maybe get free courses for our police officers instead of reimbursing them for $1,000 per course that they pass with a 70. I'm all for education. I think it's great that people who work in the village and town want to further educate themselves, and certainly on topics and subjects that have to do with their professional life. But I don't know that we can afford that, and perhaps we can work with the university and with other local colleges and see if we can get some type of a low-priced program for officers. I was looking at how they get, besides the 2 times and the 2.5 times, I was looking at the reimbursements for lunch and dinners, and I think it's very generous of us, but I do want to say that if you're getting paid 1.5, 2 times, 2.5 times, I don't know if it's appropriate that we should be giving out cash for lunches and dinners. I was thinking that maybe there could be some type of voucher system where we could work with local restaurant who wants to give a good deal to municipal workers, to police officers. I spoke to several downtown restaurant people like Yanni's and Bob's, and they have like working man specials like that are $7.99. You get like a really big plate of food, and they're really happy to do it. And if you had a voucher, you know, it keeps them eating locally.
I think the reimbursements.
Keeps them in town.
I may have read it wrong, but I think that was only when they have to go out of town for a training. Like if they have to go to Albany or
I think it
somewhere.
was- I mean, I
don't
read
think
it
we
like
pay her-
twice, but I think
okay.
it's like if you do overtime,
Okay.
then you're entitled to this money for your meal. And I think it's good to keep everybody fed, and I really like that, but I like to see this money really feeding people, and I like to see the money feeding people in town. I like to see our police officers eating downtown, so at least if they're eating, they could like see what's going on downtown, instead of like going home, I mean, or go home and then take your voucher for lunch another day. But I like to keep them in town eating.
Well, a lot of these things are union negotiated. So I think as the town board, I mean, speaking for now, as the town board goes and begins to look at some of these things, and I mean, I have some of the issues that you have. I mean, I, for example, have issue with, you know, an officer being paid overtime because they have to travel to a conference for training. You know, the minute, let's say I'm due, and I think this is the way that it works, I'm due in Albany at 8 o'clock to do a training, and I leave my house at 6:30 or 7 to get to Albany in time. The flag on the meter goes down when I leave my house, step in that car, and start driving to Albany. And when I leave the conference, let's say it goes outside of my 8 hours, if I start driving back, that's overtime. I mean, there are lots of little nitpicky little things in here that I think have been given away without putting up a good enough stink about some of the stuff that we are giving away or getting substantial backup for it. For example, the education benefit. I mean, personally, I think the standard, if the town is going to pay you to go to school, you better bring me an A or a B. The C is unacceptable to me. That's average. You pay for yourself if you're going to go do average. If I'm going to pay for you to better yourself as a police officer or any municipal employee in my town, you bring me an A or a B and I'll pay for it. But if you're going to, I can get average anywhere. Yeah, I can get average anywhere. And so, I mean, those are things that I think we ought to look at. I mean, and there are other things. I mean, it's like we pay them in their contract to clean their uniforms, okay? And we give them money for that. Now, whether they're using the money to clean the uniform, I mean, there are lots of little.
I mean, perhaps it would be better if we cleaned all the uniforms together. Everybody brings their uniform in every month, and we make a deal with the dry cleaner. All the uniforms go together, and we get a group deal, and we save money because we're cleaning 40 uniforms. We're not cleaning one at a time wherever the person takes it. I mean, I've been to like dry cleaners that totally rip you off. I mean, I love my dry cleaner. My dry cleaner here is terrific, but some of them are very expensive. So, and why should these guys be shopping around for a deal on getting their uniform clean? They should just drop it off. We should just get it done. They should get paid for that, and they should have clean uniform. It shouldn't be financial.
Right. Again, it is in the contract. It's a contractual thing. And I mean, it may be that, with a number of things, it may be in our interest to look at alternate service delivery for some of the things that we are paying for.
Get the dry cleaning
now. Dry cleaning, all of those things that we pay out of pocket for.
And I can understand, like, if an officer got to a fight and his uniform was covered with blood and it was, an emergency dry cleaning. Of course, he needs a clean uniform. I'm not saying he should. But there are services that will pick up these uniforms and give you a deal.
Well, I would think that they're wearing a new uniform every day, aren't they?
No, mine again, and I'm no expert on the purser's office. But they have to buy their uniforms, and I think they have to buy the patches and stuff. But it's their responsibility to clean them. And when they're damaged, I think they can be replaced. I'm not sure if it's free or at a reduced cost, but if it's in the line of, if it happens while you're working, they may replace it for free, and they may, so I mean, there's a lot of little things in here that are odd, but they have to maintain those uniforms. They may get it, and then it's up to them to maintain them. And I think the way that we do it now is they get a uniform cleaning allowance, and I don't have a problem with providing a uniform cleaning allowance, but if it's money that you're pocketing and it becomes part of your salary, I mean, that to me is...
Then how are they getting their uniforms?
Are they bringing receipts?
Yeah,
No, they don't. They don't. It's not
Is it
required for them to bring
launder them at
But
home
this
or
is-
something
but this
like
is
that.
right.
I would assume.
Just keep it.
This
I would-
is
I mean,
a write-off. This is something that our government could be writing off, the tax, or however they do that.
Well, call me crazy, but, I go to work, I'm expected to have a suit, and nobody cleans it for me, nobody provides it for me. It's my job to show up ready for work.
Well,
and
I
if
think
it's
there's a
dirty,
case.
I clean it. I'm not looking for my employer to clean my shirt if I spill some. I mean, it's just a different way of thinking about.
It's really a different way of trying to compensate these guys for what they do. Instead of, in the private world, you get, here's your salary,
Right.
good luck, come to work clean and neat, and everything. But with these contracts, all of their whole existence is broken down into little pieces. It sure would be nice if we could take all that and just pay them X and eliminate all that stuff. It'd be a lot easier to negotiate contracts in the future that way too.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I agree. I mean, I wish we pay them what they're worth, so that we wouldn't have to be nickeled and I mean, if we pay them what the actual job is worth, and you attach, the danger and everything else to the job, then I mean, and I've said this to the chief. I don't think our police officers are compensated the way they should be. I mean, in my view, when you look at the information that you have there for them, it's atrocious. But that's what it is, and that's the way that it is. And I guess the question is, as we go about doing this, there needs to be, in my view, a better value placed on the job of a police officer and pay them what they're worth, so that we take into account all these things that we're talking about.
Right.
I mean, I'd much rather be say, here's $80,000 to do your job, clean your own. I mean, it's this little bit.
Administratively, it's a
Yeah.
lot easier for the town too, because every month we have to sign off on vouchers, and you'll see vouchers for all these items.
Yeah.
And it's just, so a new voucher has to be created for each of these purchases, which can be just a ton of work. And anytime somebody wants to buy boots, there has to be a voucher created for the boots. Some people buy boots at Kenco, and some people buy boots at Walmart. And there's a huge difference in price.
Right.
You go to Kenco, it's $200. You go to Walmart, it's $60. So
Yeah, but the argument there is you set a standard. You don't allow them to run all over the
well,
place to
I
buy
think
what
the
they
argument
want.
is you pay them, and you
Yeah.
give them, as part of their salary, a stipend for whatever they have to buy, and then that's it. Then it's
Right,
all
if they
done.
want something a little fancier, then that's up to them.
Right. I think it would be nice to, again, streamline
Right.
the way things are done, so that we take some of the soft costs out of it as well.
I have two points to make. In response to Randall, when I've worked most of my life prior to being in my own business and sales.
Mhm.
And when I would evaluate a position, I'd say, what's the salary and what's the commission plan, and how can I maximize the value of this commission plan to make the most money I possibly can? When I looked at the overtime in these contracts, I felt like I was looking at a commission plan. I think someone could work this system to make a lot of money. So your point's well taken about the salary, but we have people with 10 paid personal days have to be backfilled every year with someone making time and a half.
Mhm.
We have a system where very quickly people go to 4 weeks vacation. And every day of those 4 weeks, plus the 10 personal days, are backfilled with somebody at time and a half. So and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
That's 45 days per person, then, right?
That was just two things. There's more.
Uh-huh.
There's more. So I think the town of New Paltz is being extremely generous in some of these provisions, and I think since these are existing union contracts in some cases, and it's not going to be automatic or easy to undo them, but we need to at least let people know what the status quo is. So along those lines, I don't like to make decisions based on my opinions because I'm not that smart. Usually, if you get the data and you get enough data, the answer reveals itself as obvious once you look at the numbers. And I am, let's see, on page 40 of the police contract, it refers to the requirement to keep a master overtime list. A master overtime list must be kept in the police department, and I'd just like to get a sense of what percentage of our total outlay for compensation for police is overtime. You may know that.
Ira could probably, he does that every meeting. Ira Margolis could probably he's probably given it to me at some point. But
because, just given the examples but with vacation and personal days, built in to this arrangement is a tremendous amount of overtime. And I just anecdotally recall last time there was an addition of a full-time officer, reading in the New Paltz Times, once again, the addition of another full-time officer will not reduce overtime, which means that had been the case in at least one. So we're hiring full-time officers, but we're not reducing overtime, and that's doesn't make financial sense.
Yeah, well, I can tell you it is one of the things that we continue to discuss at the commission in hopes of perhaps encouraging more use of part-timers to fill those positions, when there's need for overtime coverage or backfilling, as opposed to overtime or getting more full-time officers, because at the end of the day, each additional officer adds that much more to the pot, and it just continues to grow and mushroom. And even when they go away, you're still paying for it. So I mean, I think we need to be more proactive in the way that we manage and schedule overtime, and that is something that we continually look at on the commission, and we need to be a little smarter as we fill vacancies within the department, and we need to analyze how we're using the employees that we have now and how best to get the most out of what we have without adding more bodies. I'm all for keeping patrols on the street, because those are
that's the whole deal.
That's the job. But when I look at where we have, and I always say it wrong because it's, I consider the chief and the lieutenant and the sergeant's management, in my view. Those are the management guys. So I think we need to look seriously at what we have as far as management is concerned, and how we can better utilize how we do things, and maybe find ways to streamline.
Well, here's my other global big picture question. I'm trying to understand who we are and what we're going to do. There's some data that I think is important for us as a community to have, and us as a committee to have. But I'm not sure if it's our place to get that information. I called Ira before coming over here, because Ira's on the Finance Committee for Consolidation and chair of the Police Commission. And my question was, I'd like to know a lot of things. I'd like to know the overtime question. I'd like to know what the breakdown is between administrative and officer compensation in the total payroll. But I'd also like to know what percentage of the police activity and the tickets and arrests in New Paltz are conducted by the New Paltz Police Department, and what percentage are by outside agencies like SUNY and the state police and the county sheriff. I'd like to know if we're getting 90% of our police services from New Paltz Police, which I believe is the case, or whether it's 80%. I live 2 blocks off Main Street, and it's just my habit at 10 o'clock every night. I run to the convenient deli and make a milk run, whatever we need for the next day. And one week, I was pulled over between the convenient deli and my home, 2 blocks away from the convenient deli, by the county sheriff on one night, by the state police on another night, and by the SUNY police on another night. I got one ticket. I didn't use a signal before turning, but I found that flabbergasting. So God forbid the number is 50% that the New there are some smaller number that the New Paltz Police Department. I need to know how much of the police service is provided by this group that we pay a lot for. That's data, I think, that I don't know if the police commission should get that, whether the town board should get that, whether this committee should get that, or the finance committee should get that. But I think all those bodies would benefit from that information. And I think for us to analyze what we're doing here, consolidation, what overlaps, who does what, it seems vital information.
Well, again, one of the questions that I ask frequently, and I'm told, they're not supposed to come off the campus, but I wonder why we can't get more patrol and help from the SUNY police. And I'm told they can't come off the campus yet. I see them writing tickets and parked up at the, where the convenient deli. I mean, that's not on campus, and I'm wondering, why can't they on weekend sit down here so that our guys can patrol? And it's like, well, they can't
Or so that we don't have
do
to use
that.
COVID.
Yeah, they can't do that. And then, so there's a it looks simple, but it's not. But a lot of the questions that you're asking here are questions that we ask, and it's an insular kind of thing, and it's a hard nut to crack.
The coordination too. Why do you have this local police department?
So a lot of those questions go to the heart of one of the issues, which is efficiency.
Yes.
That's exactly.
If you're getting 90% of your police services from your local department, that's one level of efficiency. But as you say, if God forbid it's as low as 50%, that's a very different situation.
And you see, why is it that you have the sheriff in town if you have a local police force? Why is it that the state police are in town? And if you have your own police force, why don't you get credit from them somehow for the services that you're providing for your own town? I mean, how many of the sheriffs are actually assigned to New Paltz? Probably far fewer, because we have our own police force. So, I mean, there's another sub-issue there too, in terms of how the county resources and state resources are allocated to communities that have their own police force.
Could it be as simple as the convenient deli has the best 24-hour coffee? Could it be that's small and simple? two other questions on efficiency, and you may, if you happen to know.
Can I tag on to what you
Yeah,
said?
please do, yeah.
I was having some similar thoughts, and I was wondering if we're actually paying our policemen overtime to monitor speed traps and, doing seatbelt inspections and things like that. And I don't really know that should be something that we're using overtime for. Perhaps that should be part of the regular rotation, to set some things up.
I can tell you that there is one the DWI program that the state runs and that we participate in. It is a program where they in fact pay us for that officer who is dedicated to do just that.
That's great.
So their entire thing, for the most
that's not in our
part,
budget.
the way that it works, which I think is odd, and the town perhaps might think about doing it differently. But one of the things that troubles me about it is that we collect this money. It costs the police department $30,000-$40,000 to do it, and again, IRA has the exact figures. We get a reimbursement from the state, but the police department has yet or does not get credit for that reimbursement, so it shows up as overtime that is expended that isn't credited back to them. So they get the hit, they're getting the money for it from the state, but it goes into the general fund.
We should get relief from that.
Well, the police department, it would help offset some of the hours that you see in overtime, but we don't get the money credited back to us. So when the chief fills out his report, it's got,
It doesn't get credited back to
yeah,
the
it's
police
50
account.
Yeah, 50 hours of overtime. And you look at it and say, what's this 50 hours of overtime? And then perhaps you say, oh, well, 30 of that is the STEP program. Well, and then you get X number of dollars back to the town, but it doesn't get credited to offset those 30 hours of overtime for participating in that program. And so it looks like the police department is I'm sorry?
The result of that is that they look more expensive than they are because they've been reimbursed but haven't been credited for it.
Bingo. Exactly.
Okay.
Another example is the Ulster County, I forget the acronym, the Drug Enforcement Team. When they request our officers work with them, and then we backfill those hours at time and a half. So in situations where we're working on regional things, Ulster County drug enforcement, we are paying time and a half for those.
But we share ultimately in the proceeds of those task force projects.
Right.
So when there is when there are funds that are seized, ultimately those funds are allocated to the various towns that do participate in those programs.
And the police does there's when we participate in those, there is, as Kevin is saying, there's a seized assets account that can be used by the chief, and he basically can't be denied access to the funds as long as they are to be used for training or other drug interdiction type things. So it's money. It's money that is there,
tax
right? So it's like
and
nobody can
then
deny.
what's going on with all the different parades and all
Well,
these
we're looking at that as a
things?
town board
And I
because-
mean, I love parades and I love parties and street fairs, and I think they're all fantastic. But I don't personally think that we need a lot of police there. I think we just need like one or two, just to make sure things are okay. But
See, the police, we have one point of view, but the police have another point of view, and their point of view really is safety and protection.
and safety is very,
Right.
very important.
It's just that our understanding of safety is much different than theirs. They're really concerned about nothing happening. So under those circumstances, they do staff the parades with a number of officers they feel necessary to provide that safety. The last thing they want to do is to be understaffed and have something happen. I agree with you, the parades can be expensive, and we have the data at the town about what it costs for each parade. So we just, as a town, have to evaluate how many parades we really want to sponsor. After that, whatever organization wants to have a parade can reimburse the town for the cost of the police. And that's how I think we can deal with that.
And I can tell you, there are, you know, in defense of the department, there are times when they don't want to deal with the parade, but because it's been approved, and I mean, they've worked with the plan to get it
parades
done.
Should be not just going to a village board, but going to a police commission, and it should be more of a bigger decision. if
The
you want to
process,
support
the
that.
process, when I first got there, the process, and I think it still is the process, it's the town and the village approve them, and it goes from one to the other, and then it is sent to the chief.
The parade route
To-
is sent to the chief for
Yeah,
review.
to say, you know, can we do this, and do you foresee any problems? And if he says, no, I don't, but he doesn't generally say, you know, no, I'm not gonna, you know, because it's,
And Amy, the
it wants
cost,
to be
cost,
accommodating.
when you submit an application for parade, it's a nominal. Is it $25?
It depends if you're an organization within the village or not. If you are a village-based organization, it's 25. If you aren't, it's like a couple hundred.
But you know, maybe we should be using more volunteers at
I
the parade.
think what you're going to have to do is the parades, there's a dollar value associated with having a parade. And so I think the towns and the village have to realistically give these groups an idea of what it costs.
Right.
And the commission I think we did a recommendation to the town board, because we were asked to look at it. And I
It
mean,
was several $100s, I think it was.
yeah, we bumped up some of the, you know, for local groups, it was X, and for external groups, you know,
Right.
coming from Kingston or Poughkeepsie to do your thing here, then you're gonna pay for the
Right.
resources of our town in order
It's
to do
hundreds
it.
of dollars an hour.
It's several hundred. I
Yeah.
think it was $500 or $600 for a parade, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and if I remember correctly, last year I think the chief indicated that his costs for parades for the year, and at that time I think it was like $7,000 or $8,000
For the whole year.
for the year. I believe
And that includes like regattas and all kinds
Yeah, I
of
think that was
things.
a lot of parades.
that was a lot of parades. Yeah,
Does that include other events?
yeah. I think it's the
Regattas,
runs.
Was it
Fourth of
12 or
July.
13 parades a year?
Yeah.
Something like that?
But it was like seven to $10,000 a year. I mean, it
I think
sounds like a small
4
amount
or
of money.
5 definitely,
But it's a lot of money as it relates to human resources
Right.
that are devoted to.
And overtime.
Yeah,
I know there were.
but you could fill part timers with that. That's
Right.
you know again a way to use, and I think he does use a lot of part timers to do parades. But then you have to backfill those regular patrol positions because they're working the parade. You still need people
Right.
riding around patrolling.
I know there were 2 trustees who were looking into fire police, like Modena has, which is a volunteer department, and they like specialize in stopping traffic and doing things of that nature.
They're
So,
training.
I mean, yeah, and they're like trained and they they work in official capacity. So, at really little to no cost, and then we could supplement that with like some police protection. It
That's
might be a
great,
way
yeah.
of routing the cost, but you also have to
Keeping the
find
cost down.
volunteers.
And we also had an idea of a neighborhood watch group where, you can get neighborhood people to volunteer, and 2 people go out in the evening and patrol the neighborhood. If there's a problem, then they could let the police know and cut down on policemen being on duty and really use them less. I mean, we have a lot of neighborhoods in New York State that do a neighborhood watch, and we have a lot of citizens here who really care,
Yeah.
who I think would be willing to support that and volunteer.
Just have to watch out for those exceptions.
Vigilantes.
The vigilante neighborhood watch guy who shot that kid.
That could be.
Well, I didn't say they should have guns.
No, I know. But,
And the other thing too to keep in mind
Someone-
is that as we we're walkable here to some extent.
The town,
Okay,
not
but
so
there are
much.
people like Kevin and me who live across the bridge who aren't walkable, and so you need to.
But let's look at Gardner, for example,
Mhm.
since they're our neighbor. And Gardner does not have a police department. And Gardner seems to be okay.
they're okay. The main drag through the town is one main drag. The village here is a lot bigger.
But we
really-
have the college police,
Yeah, the college
and we have the sheriff right over here in
and the
Highland.
village. It would be nice if there was a per diem pool of Town of Lloyd Police, New Paltz Police, just surrounding jurisdictions, a pool that you could use to fill that
To
gap.
rotate.
To rotate. So you wouldn't have to pay time and a half or 2.5 times. Maybe you just pull from the pool to fill in when needed
Right.
and try to keep it at a basic rate. But this village is so much different than Gardner.
Yeah.
It
I'm
really
not
is.
saying, I'm not actually comparing the village to Gardner, but I am comparing some of the outskirts of New Paltz, some of our neighbors on the mountain.
Right, we never.
You know,
we
it's
never-
very similar to our neighbors in Gardner.
Right.
It's a very similar landscape.
It would be a total different equation if you didn't have the college and the village the way it is now, in terms of what's offered in the village from 10 to 4. The town outside the village, there isn't,
There's nothing going on.
there's really not a lot that's going on.
I know.
Really not a lot.
Well, I have a different way of maybe trying to get the information you're looking for. Why don't we compare New Paltz to New Paltz? And when I say it, I haven't been here, I've only been here 17 years. But I am told by people who have been here longer that, at one point, say at the beginning of the 1970s, there was a village police department which policed the village at night. But that's all they did. And the state police took care of the rest of things during the
Daytime.
day. And at that time, there was no campus police at SUNY. So I'm curious what things looked like 30 years ago, and just to see how things have changed. Because we do have the new SUNY police force, and we still have the state police, yet where we had a very small village force, we have...
And now our police is on putt corners.
Well, I don't think anyone here, and I guess I have to stand on the table, I'm not anti-police. I'm anti-losing my house because I can't afford to live here. And
I look at it from the perspective that the police are my friends.
Yeah.
I'm an adult, and I
Yeah.
appreciate the police, and that the police are there when I need them. And
Thank
they
you.
really are, and I appreciate them, and I want them to have good jobs and be happy. And I'm not anti-police. I'm anti-overtime, and I'm anti my taxes being really, really high. And I'm trying to work with you guys to figure out ways that we can lower.
Yeah, and then you have this dynamic, and it's a really interesting dynamic, and that is the people west of the Wallkill are paying 75%. When I say west of the Wallkill, the town residents outside the village are paying 75% of the police budget. Village residents are paying 25% because it's based on assessed valuation.
But a village resident, I'm a village resident.
Right.
I don't really need a lot of police. I don't sit in the bar late at night. I don't get into trouble with my friends. I'm a quiet lady. I go to sleep with my family at night. I lock my door, and I don't generally need the police at night.
Right. Well, you can imagine then how you would feel if you live outside of the village, where you're way out and you don't have that kind of a need either, but yet they're faced with paying 75% of their bill. And they feel that the police are needed to supervise what's happening in the village, from certain hours to certain
A
hours.
lot of those hours is really a lot of college students, and maybe we should be utilizing our campus police and demanding more from them.
Well, I don't think you're going to be able to get from campus police, but I think another option that the village could look into would be some sort of downtown, getting the Downtown Business Association, the downtown businesses to contribute, or, people have said the businesses that contribute to the nightlife issues.
Businesses that are open after 10
certain
o'clock.
hours to contribute to a security detail or some sort of,
It could be a
local
line, a fourth line of police too. It could be.
Right, and it would ease the burden on the town police who have to go further
People
out,
that are
or
collecting revenue between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m.
that is a possibility too. I'd still think that it's important to have some sense of safety within the outside of the immediate village. Other than people just walking because there's stuff going on in the outer village and then even further out in the town, but it's something that could be considered, and then you're really taking it completely off, the homeowners.
I've had, go ahead, Ross.
I was going to say, one of the advantages of the coterminous town village is you're allowed to create something called a benefit assessment district.
Yes.
And for example, if policing of the downtown or certain areas or certain hours of the day, it would be considered police services above and beyond what is generally provided as a community. You could provide those extra services and create a small fee for ratepayers who would pay for that apart from the residential neighborhoods or other parts of the community. And that's not usually allowed to a village, but under the circumstances of a combined town village, that's one way you were allowed to segregate specific costs and find their audience, their consumers, and have them pay a small fee for the additional costs, additional services.
And you could extend that, Ross, to entities that currently do not pay tax but are providing services, and they could share in the service cost that they're not sharing in now.
So you mean the
So
university?
not-for-profit companies, hospitals, universities, different entities like that that aren't currently paying real property taxes could then, you could assess them for some kind of a special
like
district
on the
use.
Mountain House?
And I think if it's done well and carefully, it isn't a tremendous additional burden financially, but it does provide the opportunity to provide additional services beyond what the community at large needs or wants.
You can do the same thing with fire districts, same thing.
Where the risks are higher, the density is greater, or something like that.
Yes.
Interesting.
Well, as a person who lives in a sidewalk district, a lighting district, a late night district, and anyway, moving right along.
What were you saying? You want to stay here without having being taxed out of your home?
So let me recap some of the data that I think would be helpful, and let's try and figure out who can get it.
Great time.
Number one, Ira, the head of the police commission, says he has the numbers as far as the number of tickets issued by the New Paltz Police for last year. So what is missing is the same information from the SUNY, the state, and the county sheriff. I'm very happy to ask for that information or FOIL that information. I don't know how enthusiastic I am about getting a quick or full response. Do you think the police commissioner would want to try and get that information?
We have a,
You'd have more basis for wanting to.
yeah, we have a,
The justice reports
That would
might
be good
contain
data
that
for
information.
us.
yeah.
We get monthly reports from our justice courts. So let me check to see if that
I think,
information
yeah,
is in there.
if we can just get some numbers, it would be really helpful.
And Ira also probably has the detailed breakdown on the overtime costs.
That was the other thing.
As well.
Good.
So Ira, I don't know, did you talk to him about that?
No,
Or do you,
no.
Do you, okay.
I just asked him if we were stepping on his toes by raising the subject in this meeting.
And he said,
He said, if you can get that information, go for it. So he was all good with that. Number two, I'll get from Elting Library. I'd like to get the size of New Paltz Police Department in 1972, 1992, and today, just to get a baseline of
I
information.
don't have, but this is the report that we received.
Staffing Management Analysis of the New Paltz Police Department.
Yes.
All right.
And that was done
Just
in
carry this around with you?
that was done in 1995, I believe. And as the commission sits to look at staffing and whatnot, they toss that at us as if, they say we're understaffed and we need more, I think we need another study, but I think we need to look at cost and what we can afford, and then go from, figure out there. I think studies are all well and good, but if you don't necessarily physically live and work and do what you do here, you can't. It's a
I'll
hard
give this back to you
sell.
because I want to know the size and numbers of employees. Simple, basic information. Then we can go
From
into
here
that.
to from last time to, let's see, hold on. All right, go ahead.
Overtime as a percentage of payroll, the percentage of arrests done by New Paltz Police and other agencies, and the size of the department. Yeah, those are the three. 3 bits of information. One just detail that I'll just throw out there in case you know it, Randall. The school district year before last stopped participating in the DARE program.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a savings? I mean, what happened to the guy who was doing that? I mean, did he get laid off, or did he get reassigned, or
Retired.
I don't know all I know is that I think the way that it worked, the department was paying for it, and I think whoever did it said to the school, "Oh, we're doing this for you. You should help kick into it," and they didn't want to kick into it, so the program stopped.
I know that someone was doing that, so I guess the question is.
I think the officer is still there. I think
he
he was just
retired.
Was it? Is it okay?
Okay,
But that's why it was stopped.
I just
but that
wondered
was
if
before.
15 hours per week just kind of went into the system,
Yeah.
into the ether. Okay.
All right. So you want to know what the size of the department was? What? How far back did you want
I
to
can get that from the library.
Okay.
Anything else?
I thought that was an interesting point about getting these non-for-profits to kick in for things like fire, and that was something that I was talking to about it. But we had discussed the possibility somehow of working with the university and getting students to pay a fee, like a living in the village type of fee, $300 a year. Something, they want to live here and we want to keep them safe. And, you know, if they have a fire, we need to respond to that. And I know it's the law, we have to respond to it. But maybe like if we kind of even that out amongst all the students and all the parents, and it would really raise a lot of money and really help us out and keep our taxes a little bit lower.
Yes, I think.
And we could get another payer.
The question is how you structure that, really. What's the most efficient way to structure that kind of a payment? It's probably easier to structure as a lump sum payment from one entity, and that entity then spreads the cost among whoever they want to
To the
spread it
college.
across. Right?
Have we looked at? I mean, since you bring that up, because the thing that I've always, and I think we talked about it last meeting, have the village or town looked to the state to perhaps provide a stipend
We're
to
actually
the communities?
researching that now. My understanding is that there are other college towns that receive a payment in lieu of taxes. We're researching that now to see what the data suggests.
Okay.
So I guess for next meeting, can we get village policies? And we have the police officers, dispatchers, and the non-union employees. I guess that leaves union employees, right?
Excuse me?
We have non-union employees. Is there a similar package for union employees?
I'm getting copies of the contracts for the 3 unions. I've talked to the town labor attorney. He has obviously copies of all that. They're all expired, and I asked him to give me kind of a report on what a merger would look like between the town and the village. I spoke to him today about that, so he's working on that. So we'll get a little input from him.
Yeah, I guess a bunch of lay people crawling through all the individual union contracts might be problematical.
Yes. Anything else?
Well, the country code for India is 9-1, and twice in the past 4 months, someone from my family has inadvertently dialed 911, and the response from the local police has been incredible, incredibly fast and good. And, if you're calling India, watch that last digit.
Well, I mean, I think that's an important thing. I mean, the fact that people question what the police costs and what they do doesn't necessarily make them anti-police, and I think that's unfortunately it's where some folks tend to go when you start looking at costs, and it can be very, very distressing. And I can tell you, as somebody who sits on the commission, I feel it a lot because I ask a lot of questions, and it's, you know, it's like you're trying to, you know, harm the police department, and it's the farthest thing from
We
the
have a
truth.
really
What we're looking.
great police department.
We do.
Yeah, we
Really
do.
and they do a great
They do a
job.
great job. The key, though, is to find ways to be more efficient and cost people less money. And that's the only thing we're
That's the
trying.
enemy, the cost of
Right,
everything is the
right,
enemy.
that's-
It's the individual cost, the cost on the individual taxpayer. So what you have to do is do what you've been doing. You have to cut costs where you can, and then you have to spread the cost over a bigger pool of people.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's what you have to do. Because we don't have a big enough pool to spread the cost
Right.
across right now.
Right.
So that's what you need to do. You have to figure out how to do that.
But you have to talk about it in order to get there. And when issues come up and new people need to, I mean, you need to ask the questions, because sometimes it's not necessarily no, don't do it. It's like, it might not be a good time to do it,
It's never
you know.
happened.
Right, but you have to always, you know, sometimes you have to just wait. So,
Move to adjourn.
second.
All in favor?
All right.
We'll be back here July 30th, right?
Yes.